A pool stick in a church playroom randomly snaps in half without anyone near it, and the church is already known for decades of paranormal stories. A hospital security guard watches a wheelchair turn itself around in the middle of an empty room, and in Pakistan a motorcycle appears to roll and tip over by itself. This is disturbing surveillance footage experts can't debunk. What in the world is going on with this pool stick? This one comes from Reddit user Pumpkin Man, who shared the footage along with the caption, "I have a video of surveillance camera footage capturing a pool stick inexplicably snap itself in half on the leg of a pool table. This happened in a children's playroom at a small rural church. There have been dozens of other incidents of paranormal activity at this church, spanning multiple decades. The people, who I know personally, that took this video and work at this church fully believe the place is haunted by a child ghost." Now, I gotta say, I've seen some paranormal videos on this channel before. This one's up there for me. This is pretty weird. The way that thing's moving sounds like they believe what they're seeing. This next video comes from a hospital. A security guard was doing his rounds when he came across this wheelchair in the middle of the room. So he stands there, scratching his head, probably wondering what it's doing sitting there, but then it starts to move. At first he doesn't notice it, but when he turns back to look at the chair, it's of course now facing in the total opposite direction, so all he can do is stand there stunned, likely too petrified to move. It's bad enough worrying about your bike getting stolen as it is without ghosts getting involved. This security footage was captured in Pakistan back in 2020. So what in the world? Now, there doesn't seem to be any strong winds blowing. Of course, there's nobody nearby either. Nothing that would cause the bike to roll on its own like that and then fall to the ground. So what happened? Was a ghost trying to steal someone's bike, then realized that they had no clue how to ride and just ditched it? Probably. But what do you all think? Thoughts in the comments, please. This one comes from Reddit user Signal Pollution 4881, who says he used to work at a haunted movie theater. He shared this security footage of something seeming to move past the camera. Take a look at this. Now, this footage on its own, I mean, it's weird, but it's not that crazy, right? Well, the backstory, there's a lot going on. So he and his brother worked the night shift cleaning the theater, and from their first shift, something felt off. During that first night, the uploader heard a baby crying in an empty auditorium, even though the building had been closed for hours. He searched the entire place, but it was empty. And over the next several months, they experienced odd things, doors opening and closing on their own, unexplained footsteps in the upstairs projector room. Eventually, even his brother, who'd been skeptical at first, became convinced that something was definitely wrong. About 6 or 7 months in, the uploader was alone upstairs when he saw a black figure about 20 feet away. It seemed to have no face. It was just this eerie, shadowy mass. Terrified, he ran off without even saying a word to his brother. From then on, he constantly felt like he was being watched through the projection windows. About a year later, his brother saw a thick black smoke cloud form out of nowhere in the bathroom before vanishing. Shaken, they finally started talking about their experiences. They kept working there though, because the pay was decent and the shifts were short. The activity mostly quieted down, just the occasional mysterious footstep. Sometimes they'd see things moving and would hear disembodied voices. This video came later after they'd already quit. It was sent to him by a former coworker around Halloween and seems to show the same black figure he once saw in the projection booth. So what is this thing hovering in the sky? This footage is from a live news broadcast in Rio Branco, Brazil. On February 9th, 2009, TV Gazeta showed up to capture what witnesses described as a colorful object hovering over the city. Whatever this thing was, it changed color multiple times, flashing from blue to red to white. There were more than 25 witnesses that night who watched as this thing hovered in the sky for more than 2 hours. Then it moved from east to south and afterwards south to west. Pretty strange. Certainly doesn't look like a plane or satellite to me, and not that a drone would be totally unheard of in 2009. They certainly weren't as widely used as they are now though. Till this day, we still don't know exactly what this thing was. Alright, this one's pretty ridiculous, but I do love me some possession videos. Always fun to see what weird noises these evil spirits force out of people's mouths. Back in 2016, something pretty strange happened on a Thai talk show. A model came on the show and told everyone that she had picked up a ghost while on vacation in the city of Rayong the year before. She said this ghost was a pop, a type of spirit in Thai culture that's known for having an uncontrollable hunger. At first, she just calmly explained what had happened to her. You know, ghost got inside my body somehow. Well, and then right in the middle of the interview, the pop just had to embarrass this poor woman on live television. To be fair though, she should have seen this coming. She'd been dealing with the thing's antics for a whole year at this point. Suddenly she seems to switch, like something else is talking through her. She started speaking in a different voice and just couldn't seem to snap out of it. No matter how much the hosts pushed her to stop, they kept telling the spirit to leave her alone, but it refused, making threats like, "Don't mess with me," which probably sounds a lot cooler in Thai. Then one of the hosts pulls out a necklace with a Buddha pendant. As soon as he held it up, she freaks out, screaming and recoiling in terror. Very loudly, I might add. I had to turn down the volume almost all the way because I was worried everyone was going to hear female screams through my headphones and that I'd be kindly asked to leave the office. Eventually, the host puts the necklace on her though, and just like that, she seems to come back to her senses. The clip went viral in Thailand and racked up millions of views. Just what is it we're looking at here? Well, this aired on a local news station in Pueblo, Colorado, and the anchors were genuinely confused, as were a lot of people watching, as to what they were looking at. It's some weird looking animal with patchy black fur, a reddish face, and long skinny arms hunched over eating something off the ground. Apparently the woman who filmed the creature had actually seen it once before, but she had no idea what it was either. Other than an animal with mange, the word chupacabra was thrown around a lot. Well, later on, Colorado Parks and Wildlife officials looked into it and said the animal was probably a raccoon with mange. Mange is a skin disease that can cause animals to lose most of their fur and look pretty rough. I mean, you take the cutest furry animal on earth, shave all its hair off, and it looks pretty damn freaky. This image here was shared on news stations all over the world. Nobody knew what the hell this thing was when news first broke, and nobody knows what it is now, but it's since become known as the unidentified Amarillo object. In 2022, the Amarillo Zoo in Texas got a lot of attention after they shared a strange image caught on their security cameras. The picture was taken at 1:25 a.m. by a motion detecting camera showing a bizarre figure walking just outside the zoo fence. And what's creepy is that it's walking on two legs. Clearly though, this is not a person, unless they're wearing a costume, which is an odd thing to be doing at 1:30 in the morning, skulking around a zoo. When the zoo posted the image on Twitter, they leaned into the mystery, asking, is it a person with a strange hat who likes to walk at night, a chupacabra? Do you have any ideas of what this UAO, unidentified Amarillo object, could be? The zoo never outright claimed it was anything supernatural or like a cryptid or anything, but they didn't offer up any solid explanations either, because they didn't have one. Now, could this have been a weird marketing stunt? Maybe, but city officials and the zoo's director, Michael Kashiba, insisted the photo was not staged. And 3 years later, we still don't have any solid answers. Live streaming is just getting more and more unhinged with each passing year. This one just happened like last week. South Korean creator Shin, better known as Angry Korean Gamer, was doing a live stream where at one point he and his friends thought it would be entertaining to put one of them in a chokehold on camera, with a countdown timer on the screen. So the dude is lifted off the ground, struggling for air. He tries to tap out at one point, but the dude with the hold doesn't let go until the very last seconds. By then, the guy goes completely limp. For a moment, he's just slumped forward, twitching. He's having convulsions. Everyone in the room looks unsure of what to do. Then he finally gasps, and he comes back around. Instead of calling it off though, Angry Korean Gamer, he bursts out laughing. It is insane cartoon bully behavior. I mean, this dude could have easily died. The whole live streaming thing, it's just gone way too far. It seems to just bring out the worst in people. And that's also the case here. Next up, we have the Raja Jackson incident. Everyone has been talking about this case, and for good reason. It's pretty shocking. So for those not in the know, Raja Jackson, son of UFC legend Rampage Jackson, was at a pro wrestling show in Sun Valley, California. Not a WWE thing, this was a smaller event. Raja was live streaming everything on Kick. At one point, he was meeting some of the wrestlers in the parking lot outside the venue when he's introduced to a wrestler named Psycho Stu. Raja doesn't know who this guy is. Psycho Stu is like, "What, you don't know me?" Then proceeds to smash a can over Raja's head. Now, the thing is, for some reason, Psycho Stu thought that Raja was, I guess, part of the show. He was filming a promo or something, that's why the cameras were there. He hadn't actually been trying to hurt him, it was a wrestling stunt. He crushed the can with his hand or something. Anyway, there's a way to do it where it doesn't actually hurt the person, but it was still a really stupid thing to do on his part. And if Raja had hit him right there and then, that would have been self-defense. The case would have been closed, but that's not what happened. Wrestlers stepped in, told Stu that Raja was not a wrestler, and Stu was like, "Oh crap," was very apologetic about it and tried to smooth things over, explaining it was all a misunderstanding. Now, Raja accepted the apology, but was also told he could be worked into the show later, crashing Stu's match and getting a couple hits in on him. Pro wrestling hits though, so not real ones. Now, at this point, things seemed fine, but for the next several hours, Raja Jackson watched as his viewers started commenting about how he's, such a pushover and how he should have knocked Psycho Stu out, yada yada. Just went on, and Raja just got increasingly more infuriated by the whole situation, basically telling his viewers yeah, I'm gonna actually mess this guy up when I get in the ring. And that's what he did. When the time came, Raja rushed in, picked Psycho Stu up, who thought that this was all part of the show, mind you, and then slammed him to the mat. It was not a proper pro wrestling slam, because that's not what Raja was intending. Stu was just knocked out cold after this slam, then Raja starts wailing on him. He got 23 heavy blows in to the head before other wrestlers finally realized what was going on and stepped in. Stu was unresponsive. He was rushed to the hospital, and for a while he wasn't even waking up. People weren't sure if he was gonna live. Luckily, he's been released from the hospital now, and it looks like Raja Jackson might be arrested. We'll have to wait and see. Back in February of 2018, a guy named Stephen Ellum went live on Facebook behind the wheel of his car outside Middlesex Hospital in Connecticut, rambling about the Illuminati and calling himself Jesus Christ. Pretty standard stuff here. Well, minutes later, he drove straight into the sliding glass doors of the emergency room, and he poured gasoline on himself and lit it on fire. The live stream captured the crash, the flames, the chaos inside the hospital as around 30 patients and 20 staff were evacuated. A hospital security guard was treated for smoke inhalation, but no one else was hurt. Ellum was airlifted to Bridgeport Hospital, where he later died. Back in 2014, a gamer was caught being robbed live on Twitch. Nikki Elise from Arizona, who streamed under the handle Sajidine, was mid-game when a pair of armed men broke into her house. At one point, she hears shouting from the next room, and then gets up, to see what's going on. Shortly after, a voice yells, "On the ground now, on the ground," while the live stream continues. Eventually, a man with a firearm walks into the room and starts bagging stuff up. Minutes later, the intruder turns off the lights and disconnects the webcam, finally ending the stream. Now, luckily, no one was hurt, but Sajidine's Twitch was taken down for violating the guidelines, which is just, talk about adding insult to injury. In York County, Pennsylvania, a mom of 4 named Amanda Pitt caught something really weird on her security camera. It rattled her so badly, her family started thinking about moving. So at 3:40 a.m. on October 21st of 2023, Amanda had been sleeping when she suddenly woke up to the sound of heavy footsteps inside the house. Naturally, she checked her security camera feed, expecting to see her husband or maybe one of the kids moving around, but no, what she saw was something else entirely. "I made sure Jeffrey was still in bed because I thought it could be him," she said. "I checked on the camera and stared at it for a little bit because I thought I saw somebody." On the feed, there was this blurry, ghostly figure just standing in the doorway of her kitchen, not walking, not moving, it was just there. Totally freaked out, she shook Jeffrey awake and told him to go check it out. He crept downstairs, and there was nothing. No open doors, no broken windows, there was no sign of a break-in. But their dog, Ollie, was acting sorta weird, pacing the kitchen, clearly shaken up by something. Amanda couldn't shake the feeling. She stayed up the rest of the night, glued to the TV, trying to calm herself down, but that image was burned into her brain. I couldn't go back to sleep. I laid there and turned on the TV because I was scared, Amanda continued. I kept going back to the camera, but I couldn't see it anymore, so I thought maybe I was seeing things. The next morning, I didn't even know what to make of it. She kept a screenshot of the ghostly figure just to prove that she wasn't going crazy, but even with the photo, she still kept checking the camera again and again, trying to convince herself that she'd just imagined it. Thing is, this wasn't the only time something strange had happened in the home. Things have happened here before, Amanda said. The people who lived here before didn't live here for very long, but we never found out why. Amanda and her family moved in back in 2020, and weird stuff started happening almost immediately. She'd get camera alerts on her phone when no one was home. Doors would open on their own. The kitchen sink turned itself on one time. I've never been a ghost believer, but we've had things happen that make us question it, she admitted. That picture is terrifying. Thinking there's something like that in your house, you question everything. Well, if the dead ever did start rising from their graves and we had a real-life zombie situation on our hands, I imagine it would look something like this. This is some doorbell camera footage of a man trying to break into a house. I don't think this guy lives here. Now, obviously he's on something, right? Or a concoction of substances, but my God, does look like a zombie. The raggedy clothing, the scrapes and bruises all over his body, how lanky he is. It looks like he was just bitten by a walker from The Walking Dead. He's so out of his mind that he starts violently throwing himself into the door, and he hits it so hard that he eventually just falls backward, having nearly knocked himself out cold. I do not want to think about what this guy would have done if he'd made it inside the home. See if you spot anything creepy about this next clip. Here's some context for this one. So this is surveillance footage from a manga cafe inside a multi-tenant building in Japan. The camera is set up right at the reception counter, capturing footage of the elevator near the entrance. Now notice as the elevator doors open and the man exits the doors. He's not alone in that small elevator. Right behind him, you can spot this tall woman in a red dress. At first, it doesn't look all that unusual, but take a closer look. Doesn't she look almost freakishly tall? She'd have to bend down to clear the elevator doors. But maybe she wasn't standing there. To some, it looks more like she's floating in the air. Not to mention that she's completely motionless. The more you look at this clip, the more unsettling it gets. It almost looks like footage you'd see from The Ring. Especially because, according to people in the neighborhood, the woman in the clip, as grainy and low quality as it is to be fair, looked a lot like a woman who'd taken her life in a nearby park not long before this footage was taken. And, of course, we need to talk about the infamous Elisa Lamb case, one of the most unsettling pieces of security footage online. Back in 2013, Elisa, a Canadian student, was staying at the Cecil Hotel in downtown LA. She went missing, and no one could figure out what happened to her. Then the LAPD dropped that elevator footage, the one we've all seen. It's only a couple minutes long, but man, it gave everyone the creeps. In the video, Elisa steps into the elevator and starts pushing a bunch of buttons, like all of them, but the elevator doors won't close. Then she starts peeking her head out like she's hiding from someone. She moves her hands in this strange, slow motion sort of way as she steps in and out of the elevator, almost like she's playing a game. She also looks like at one point she's talking to someone, but no one else ever appears in the footage. This was all authorities had to work off of. She was nowhere to be found. A couple weeks later, though, hotel guests started complaining that their water tasted funny. Sometimes it would come out muddy and dark. Maintenance checks the rooftop water tanks and, well, there's Elisa's body. But this just opened up a whole Pandora's box. Most of it centered around two very big questions, though. Why was she there, and how did she get in there? The doors were supposedly locked and alarmed, and the tank was not easy to access, especially in the state she was in. The official cause of death was accidental drowning, with her bipolar disorder listed as a contributing factor here. Still, that elevator footage has fueled theories for years. Everything from ghostly possession to some sort of cover-up. Maybe someone was there off camera she was hiding from. Well, there are still a lot of unanswered questions about this case to this very day, which is why we still talk about it. This unsettling set of videos comes from a woman named Haley Moore. She has a collection of rather realistic looking dolls. Well, one night her daughter was playing in her room, and the security camera caught this. So the lullaby the girl was just singing to herself starts playing out loud from somewhere. The girl gets out of bed to see what's going on. She looks under there, and then this happens. Something starts to drag her underneath. Luckily, mom hears the screaming and comes in to get her. She posted the clip to TikTok, and people had a lot of questions. A lot of them wanted Haley to film under the bed, so she posted this next video. So one of her dolls is laying under the bed. Not only was she not expecting it to be under there, but the thing moves, almost like it's letting out a breath. She later explained that the doll has no mechanical components, it's just a stuffed doll with plastic. TikToker My Name is Ricky Bobby's been having an issue with a creepy vintage doll. This video was shared back in June. He wrote in the description, "This was recorded on my bar's surveillance camera. No one was there." Bar stool just randomly falling over on its own is freaky enough, but this isn't the only time he's captured something odd with the doll on camera. So unfortunately, we don't see what made him grab the camera and start filming initially, but then this happens. Now, could this just be a case of gravity doing the work and the doll just kind of slightly shifting position? I mean, sure, but taking the bar stool falling over into account too, hey, does make you wonder. This video was uploaded to the YouTube channel World Paranormal. Bobby Bars said he was just hanging out watching a movie when he started to hear his cabinet door moving, as if something was pulling on it from the inside. He opens the cabinet, revealing a small doll collection inside. Then he starts talking to the dolls, which are supposedly haunted. Now, listen closely to the clips we're gonna play here. Can you hear a voice whisper evil as he opens the cabinet door? And then see if you can hear footsteps in this next clip. Eventually, Bobby decides to close the door, and that's when this happens. Keep your eye on the doll on the left with the curly red hair.
All right, I'm about to close the door.
And then it moves again.
Did you move the doll? Yo.
Yeah, I think I'd be keeping that cabinet door bolted shut from that point on. This video was posted to YouTube years ago. A mom had just got her daughter a new doll, and she was filming her playing with it. Keep your eyes on the other doll in the background, though.
Lovable.
One of the arms of the doll in the background raises up, followed by the candle in front of it rolling. So, not only does this doll apparently have the ability to move on its own, it also knows the Force. And that's actually kind of cool. I think I'd keep this doll. I just make sure to be very cautious not to piss it off. Would you ever agree to spend the night in this room? I'm gonna guess a lot of you clicked on this video because dolls kind of creep you out, so that answer is probably no, especially after seeing this. Did you catch that? Happens pretty fast, but notice how as the camera pans across a section of dolls, one of them lowers its arm. I'd be out of that room so fast, especially because I'd already be kind of uncomfortable in there in the first place. I don't even have a thing about dolls really, but I mean, there's just way too many of them in that room. Too much of one thing is always kind of freaky, right? Too many cats, too many monkeys. Monkeys? An odd choice, but anyway, imagine trying to sleep with all those faces surrounding you. Not to mention that some of these dolls look just a little too real for comfort. This is one of those mysterious early YouTube videos. I actually don't even know if it was originally uploaded to YouTube or if it comes from somewhere else. It's been around since at least 2009, and here we see a girl holding a doll, talking to her friend behind the camera. I'm not sure exactly where this was filmed, but some have said Mexico. Anyway, everything seems fine and dandy before this happens. Pretty relatable reaction, really. I mean, imagine holding a doll in your arms only to look over and see its beady little eyes staring into your soul when you know you had its face turned the other way. I'd throw it on the floor too, and then I'd set it on fire. Whether that happened or not is anyone's guess. There's virtually no background info on this video, but based on her reaction, I don't think she kept the thing. So when I first saw this clip, I thought it was AI. This is Kid Strobe, aka Frenchie Baby, a dancer who can obviously move in freaky ways. He's known for having the most flexible arms in the world. Frenchie Baby started bone breaking and turfing when he was a teenager. Turfing is a style of dance that began in Oakland, California. It's all about storytelling through movement. Kid Strobe and his friends would perform on public transit to earn money and stay involved in the dance world. Frenchie Baby's extreme flexibility has led to a lot of big opportunities. He's been featured in music videos. He's appeared on shows like Romania's Got Talent, where he got the golden buzzer, America's Got Talent, So You Think You Can Dance, The Ellen Show, and Jimmy Kimmel Live. So you ever seen anything like this before? Yeah, I have not either. That is crazy. So this is Gary Turner, aka Stretch. Obviously his skin is incredibly stretchy. He holds the Guinness World Record for the stretchiest skin on the planet thanks to a rare condition called Ehlers-Danlos syndrome. It affects the body's connective tissue, making his skin super stretchy without it tearing. He can pull the skin on his stomach more than 6 inches away from his body. It's very surreal to watch. Gary's been showing off his bizarre talent for years, performing all over the world and even joining sideshows like the Circus of Horrors and Ripley's Believe It or Not. He's pulled off some seriously wild stunts on stage, like stretching his neck skin over his face like you just saw, or using his skin as a drink holder. It's freaky, sure, but also oddly fascinating? I don't know how to describe it. It's really weird. Beyond the shock factor though, Gary's used his condition to educate people about Ehlers-Danlos and raise awareness. Ever looked at a tennis racket and thought to yourself, yeah, I could probably squeeze my whole body into that? Well, this next guy has. This is Daniel Browning Smith, aka Rubber Boy. Wonder how he got that name. He's hands down one of the most flexible people to ever walk the planet. He's a contortionist, actor, stuntman, TV host, all-around performer who holds 7 Guinness World Records for his flexibility. His body moves in ways that just don't seem possible. That's because he has a rare genetic condition called hypermobile Ehlers-Danlos syndrome, which gives his joints and skin an extreme level of stretch and bend that most people could just never pull off. Daniel grew up in Meridian, Mississippi with a brother and sister. From the time he was 4, he was obsessed with contortionists and dreamed of becoming the best in the world. His first trick was jumping off the top bunk of his bed and landing in a full straddle split, which, yeah, shocked the hell out of his family. As a teen, he started doing street performances to show his flexibility and get noticed. When he turned 18, he joined the circus and then started formal training under Master Lu Yi at the San Francisco School of Circus Arts. And from there, things took off and Rubber Boy became one of the most well-known contortionists in the world. If you're a horror movie fan, there's a good chance you've seen this next guy and you just didn't know it. He's been playing zombies and other creatures since 2016. Troy James is a contortionist and actor who's built a reputation for moving like something straight out of one of your worst nightmares, in the best way possible though. He's known for his freaky fast exorcist crab walk, crazy backbends. A lot of people first saw him on America's Got Talent, where he bent himself into shapes that had the judges squirming in their seats, but before that, he was already acting in horror movies. Troy is from Canada and actually worked a regular office job before going full-time into contortion and acting. What makes him stand out isn't just how flexible he is, but how he uses that flexibility. He embodies these freaky, inhuman creatures. If you've ever seen The Void, Channel Zero, Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark, Rabbit, the Chucky TV series, you've seen him in action. I love it. No CGI needed. That's just all him. We need more of that in modern movies. It all started with a black image posted on an anonymous message board in 2012. Hidden inside the image was a coded message that kicked off one of the most complex internet puzzles ever created. The group behind it called themselves Cicada 3301. Their challenges included cryptography, literature, obscure references to art, and clues hidden physically across the world in places like Poland and South Korea. People who solved parts of the puzzle were allegedly recruited for something top secret, but nobody knows by who. Was it a government agency, a hacker collective, a cult? To this day, no one has revealed the truth about Cicada 3301, and new puzzles have appeared sporadically only to disappear again. In 2009, a Reddit user named Religion of Peace died, and when people went to his profile, they noticed strange coded messages hidden in his posts. These messages referred to something called Lake City Quiet Pills. It seemed to be instructions for carrying out covert operations. Some claimed it was a secret network of mercenaries coordinating through Reddit posts. Others believed it was just an elaborate hoax, but what made it creepier was that the user's obituary confirmed the man was a military veteran with experience in weapons. No one has ever confirmed what Lake City Quiet Pills really was, though. In 2015, a YouTuber named Obscure Horror Corner uploaded videos claiming to show footage of a hidden deep web called Sad Satan. The game looked like a broken, creepy maze filled with disturbing images, cryptic audio, and random jump scares, but what made people question it was the claim that the original game contained explicit and horrifying content, including references to real crimes. No one has ever found the original version of Sad Satan, and the creator of the videos later admitted he modified files himself, but that just made the mystery worse. Was there a real disturbing game on the dark web, or was it all staged? On November 22nd, 1987, Chicago television stations were hijacked by a person wearing a Max Headroom mask. During the broadcast interruption, the figure spoke in distorted audio, made strange comments, and was even spanked with a fly swatter. It lasted less than 2 minutes, but it became one of the most infamous cases of broadcast intrusion. The FBI investigated, but to this day, no one knows who pulled it off or why they did it. Even though it's decades old, the mystery remains one of the creepiest unsolved hacks of all time. Back in 1996, Usenet users started noticing bizarre messages flooding the boards. They were filled with random nonsensical words like Markovian parallax denigrate. For years, people assumed it was just spam, but when researchers looked deeper, they found patterns that suggested it could have been a code. Some believe it was an early form of cryptography, others think it was a failed AI experiment, and some even suspect foreign intelligence. Whatever it was, though, the strange phrase has never been explained, and it remains one of the internet's earliest mysteries. Imagine opening Reddit and stumbling on a subreddit that looks like nothing but walls of random numbers and letters. That was A858, a long-running internet puzzle that began in 2011. Every day, an account with the name A858DE45F56D9BC9 posted long strings of characters. Sometimes it was hexadecimal, sometimes base 64. To most people, it looked like gibberish, but to a growing community of programmers and cryptographers, it became a bit of an obsession. For years, users tried to crack the codes. A few posts seemed to contain coordinates or odd bits of relevant information, but the majority was just undeciphered. Theories exploded. Maybe it was a recruitment test for a secret cryptography firm. Maybe it was some kind of strange advertising stunt or a massive social experiment. But then in 2016, a user named Team W appeared and claimed to represent the A858 project. Their announcement stunned everyone. A858, they said, was part of a company-funded project. The company had cut funding, so the whole thing was being shut down. They admitted it was essentially a failed venture, but they never revealed the real purpose or who was behind it. Even with that explanation, thousands of posts remain completely unsolved. The subreddit has gone quiet, leaving behind one of Reddit's weirdest unsolved mysteries. Back in May, a live webcam aimed at a cruise ship docked off the coast of Cozumel near Cancun, Mexico, caught this saucer-shaped object zip right across the screen. Now at first, it's easy to miss, but when the footage is slowed down, you see this shiny, dark metallic disc-looking thing flying way too fast to be a bird, drone, or a bug. Whatever it was, it didn't behave like a normal bug or aircraft. It just shot past the lens. Actually, it moves so fast that it kind of looks like it suddenly appears and then disappears rather than flying off. There's been a rise in UFO sightings lately, especially after 2024. Strange lights have been spotted in the skies over New Jersey and other states. The Pentagon claimed it was all just drones or planes, but if that's the case, why did the House Intelligence Committee have a classified briefing about it? As journalist Nick Pope put it, one question people should be asking is why the House Intelligence Committee briefing was classified. Good question. So here's a weird one out of Indiana. Back in October of 2024, a bunch of glowing orange orbs were caught on camera zipping through the sky near the Grissom Joint Air Reserve Base, just south of Kokomo. There were 6 or more of these things flying in formation, hovering, flickering, and then just vanishing into thin air. People on the ground were totally freaked out. One person filming said, "I think those are UFOs, and I really don't feel comfortable going to sleep tonight." Same. If I saw that. Well, the footage showed the lights darting across the sky, but it wasn't just people on the ground who noticed. One witness checked the Doppler radar, which is normally used by weather stations to track storms, and they noticed a giant rectangular shape with what looked like a vapor shockwave trailing behind it. A vapor shockwave is a trail that forms when something moves super fast through the air, usually at or near the speed of sound. According to them, this thing was approximately 20 miles in length. Like, what even is that? Now, skeptics jumped in. Alejandro Rojas from Enigma Labs said it looked like military flares because the lights lit up and faded in succession, which is apparently how flares behave. He said the telltale signs are the lights being in a row and lighting up and disappearing in succession. Still, this wasn't an isolated event. Just a few months earlier, there were similar UFO reports near military bases in Virginia. The Air Force didn't say a word about it. Alright, so let's talk about the Mosul Orb, this strange metallic sphere that showed up over Iraq in 2016. This thing was caught on camera by a US spy plane while flying over the city of Mosul. The clip is only about 4 seconds long, but it's pretty wild. You see this perfectly round metallic ball cruising through the air. There's no exhaust coming out of it, there's no visible propulsion, and it clearly does not look like your standard drone. The footage was finally released thanks to a Freedom of Information request by independent journalist Dustin Slaughter, and it ended up being shown to the public by Jeremy Corbell. You might know him as the guy behind the Bob Lazar documentary. Corbell called it the, quote, first military filmed image of a UAP over an active conflict zone, and went on to say, quote, origin, capability, operator, and intent have not been determined in relation to this intelligently controlled UFO, end quote. The Pentagon has confirmed there are hundreds of these metal orbs being tracked all over the world, especially in the Middle East and South Asia. Some were spotted hovering, others just flying off at insane speeds. One witness even described a 1,000-foot wide silver disc floating above the 4 corners in the US. Even if only half of this stuff is legit, it's no wonder Corbell said it's time for, quote, full declassification and open scientific analysis. This is a TikToker named Dua Lupe. No surprise why she goes by that name. I mean, my god, the resemblance is uncanny. Anyway, the face that appears in the window behind her does not look like Dua Lipa. Quite the opposite, actually. Now, I could stare at Dua Lipa all day. The face in the window, though, I can barely look at for more than a few seconds without wanting to piss myself. That is pretty nightmarish. Remember when I was a kid, I always had this weird fear, totally, like, not for any reason or anything, that I would look out my window and just see a face suddenly appear and stare into my room at me. It kind of looked like that, so that's a no thank you for me. Just what in the hell is this thing? A man named Alejandro Hernandez from Mexico was driving home one night when he noticed a black shape hovering in the sky. He had no idea what he was seeing, so he decided to stop the car to get a better look, and that's when he pulled out his phone and started recording, because whatever this thing was, it was not normal. Unlike most strange videos of things floating in the sky, this doesn't look like a UFO though. This looks more human-shaped, like someone in a cloak. The way it just silently, smoothly glides through the air, it's just eerie. What do you all think about this one though? Is it genuine? Is it a hoax? Share your thoughts down in the comments. In October of 2024, staff at the Bristol Zoo project were going through footage from their night vision camera traps when they found something really strange. In the middle of Bear Wood, a 7.5-acre enclosure where bears, wolves, wolverines, and lynxes roam, the cameras picked up a strange four-legged creature. It had what looked like wings and horns. Obviously, none of the zoo's animals matched it. And for weeks, people had been saying something strange was moving between the trees. Even the animals seemed spooked. Wolves and wolverines don't usually pay much attention to the usual wildlife like deer, but this time they did. They seemed spooked by something. Well, they still have no idea what this creature was. Some people think it's just a deer caught in like a weird angle, maybe with motion blur making the ears look kind of like wings, but others think maybe Bristol now has its own local legend. Well, it's not often we get news about Nessie, but here we are. Just back in January, something strange showed up on one of the live webcams overlooking Loch Ness. A regular visitor named Andy caught it moving near the shore, heading towards Sherry Island, then turning around and slipping back out into deeper water before vanishing. He said it was cruising along for a few minutes between 4:41 and 4:48 in the afternoon. Andy's been coming to Loch Ness since the late 80s. He's familiar with the environment and normal wildlife around the loch, but this was something else. The group that runs the webcam, Loch Ness Exploration, said the footage was worth sharing because it wasn't just another random wave or boat ripple. Whatever the thing was, it looked pretty big, and this isn't the first time. In August of 2023, an Irish Nessie fan named Owen O'Fadigan spotted something on a webcam as well. He described seeing a large black hump that popped up, moved across the water, then dipped back under as a boat got close. Owen said fish do not have wakes. The movement was uncharacteristic of a seal or an otter. Only the Loch Ness Monster is the obvious choice. What you're looking at here is a sonar image taken at Loch Ness. On September 22nd, 2024, a skipper named Sean Sloggy was out on Loch Ness doing his usual rounds when something strange popped up on his sonar screen. Sean's been working these waters for years, but he's never seen anything quite like this. The strangeness of it was chilling. It's the sort of thing that leaves you speechless, he said. Sean was with maritime pilot Liam Mackenzie that day, just getting ready for another boat to arrive, when the sonar suddenly lit up. There was a massive object sitting about 320 feet down. Sean's used to spotting all kinds of weird fish and shapes on sonar, but this thing was massive. The shape looked long and stretched out, and Sean noticed there were what seemed like air pockets inside, something you wouldn't normally see with regular fish or logs even. They tried to circle back and find it again, but whatever it was had completely disappeared. We're not sonar experts, but I've never seen anything like it, Sean went on to say. In October of 2015, a man named Dave Black was driving near a golf course in Little Egg Harbor Township, New Jersey, when he saw something that looked like a deer or maybe a llama walking along, but then it suddenly sprouted wings and flew off into the trees. Dave managed to snap a quick blurry photo on his phone though, and sure enough, there was this dark creature with big wings and what looked like hooves dangling beneath it. Dave had no idea what he was looking at. When news of the photo came out, he stuck to his story, insisting that he was not trying to mess with anyone, that he really saw it and had no explanation. The photo blew up online and got everyone in New Jersey talking about the Jersey Devil again, a legendary winged creature that's supposedly haunted the Pine Barrens since the 1700s. Back in November of 2007, a Fresno homeowner known only as Jose to the media got spooked by his dogs barking at night, and he checked his security camera footage. He couldn't believe what he was looking at. The video shows this tall, skinny white figure gliding across his lawn, almost like living pants. There's no arms or torso, it's just long legs carrying a rounded quote-unquote head on top. Jose was pretty freaked. He woke his brother, saved the clip by pointing a camcorder at his monitor because the system would overwrite the footage. The story blew up after he shared it with Univision, and paranormal investigators also got involved. Even the History Channel covered it as part of fact or faked paranormal files and called it unexplainable. Then in 2011, similar footage was captured at Yosemite National Park showing two of these things together, one smaller, one larger. No one's ever figured out what they were. They're simply known as Fresno nightcrawlers. Ladies and gents, for the first time on the channel, I believe, we have a mysterious flying object knocking a man out cold right on his front porch. This is one of the wildest clips I've ever seen doing videos like this. So it starts off pretty normal. We have some home security footage capturing a guy walking into his house. About 10 seconds go by though, and then this happens. So did you catch that? We might have to slow this one down so you can see it. So this small glowing object flies across the lawn at crazy speed, zips into the doorway, and then the dude just falls back onto the grass, like totally out cold. The way he just flops back and ragdolls like that, it's insane. If this video is staged, then this guy must be a stuntman or something, because that was a gnarly fall. This happened a couple years ago in La Junta, Colorado, and it's still one of the weirdest pieces of home security footage on the internet. So a woman named Vivian Gomez said that her porch camera picked something up late one night. The next morning, she checked the footage and saw what you're looking at here. Nobody actually knows what it was. Dobby from Harry Potter, maybe, or an alien? Vivian posted the video on Facebook and it exploded. It racked up over 10 million views in less than a week, and soon big news stations were showing up to cover it. Vivian said, "I showed my son and we were both just saying, what the heck is that?" She didn't feel super threatened by whatever the thing was, but she did admit she fixed her screen door after, just to be on the safe side. The creature was never seen again, and Vivian says she still has no idea what she caught on camera. In her own words, the verdict is still out. Some people think aliens are out there somewhere. Others believe they're already here, living among us. And this security footage from Mexico has a lot of people wondering if that might actually be true. The video shows this weird floating thing drifting over some bushes and landing in someone's yard. Then it slowly glides off up the hill and onto the road, shifting and changing shape as it moves, growing into something that almost kind of looks like a person, maybe? Now, normally you'd think this was just a trick of the camera or some cheap editing, but here's the part that really got people talking. The dogs in the yard saw the whole thing. They absolutely freaked out, barking at it, then just standing there utterly confused. The video blew up on Twitter, or X, and a lot of people in the comments seemed convinced. Nobody's been able to explain what this thing is. Whatever it was though, it definitely shook those dogs. This one's pretty wild. The security camera in Ojai, California caught what looks like a glowing thing hovering right in front of the lens, and just a few minutes later, a glowing orb shoots up into the sky. The footage was shot using infrared, which means even if the UFO was using some kind of cloaking, the camera would have still picked it up. According to Scott C. Waring, a well-known UFO enthusiast and blogger who runs the site UFO Sightings Daily, according to him, the UFO took off into the distance right before sunrise, almost like it was trying to leave before anyone could see it in daylight. The person who captured the video said it happened sometime between 3 and 3:30 a.m. It started with a huge bright flash of light coming from a dried out riverbed across from their house. Place with no power lines, no street lights, and no electronics nearby. After that flash, this bright bluish white orb just showed up out of nowhere and slowly started rising into the sky. What's interesting is that you can see the first light of sunrise creeping over the horizon, but the orb isn't anywhere near it. The light from the sun and the light from the orb are totally different. The person who posted the video said, "I would really like any information on any reasonable explanations that could explain the phenomena in the video." This one comes from a construction site in Cathedral City, California, back in July of 2018. So a night security guard named Douglas Benfield was on shift when he spotted something weird on one of the monitors. What he saw was a super bright object slowly rising from the construction site, hovering for a second in midair, and then suddenly blasting off at crazy speed. Douglas, who was 48 at the time, said, "I was sitting there and everything just felt weird all of a sudden. Can't really explain." He said out of the corner of his eye he noticed something strange on the monitor. "So I played it back and couldn't believe my eyes. I kept watching it over and over again," he said. Right after that, he recorded the footage straight off the security screen with his phone and texted it to his son, who simply responded with, "WTF is that?" Douglas never showed the clip to anyone else at the time because life got busy, but when he came across it again later, he realized it was just too weird not to show, saying, "I cannot explain what is going on in that video, but it's extremely strange. I've watched it so many times and it still gives me chills." In February of 2012, farmer Hjortur Jerov, I don't know if I'm probably not pronouncing that right, but I couldn't find a video of anyone pronouncing it online. Well, anyway, he's an elderly farmer. He set up a camera by a river feeding Lake Lagerflot in East Iceland. He ended up with some pretty crazy footage that's gone on to become the best possible video evidence of the mythical Icelandic lake monster known as the Lagerflot worm. The video shows what looks like a serpentine creature drifting just under the icy water, maybe 30 to 90 feet long. The clip went viral around the world, even prompting a local panel to vote 7-6 that it was real and awarded him with a small cash prize. The Lagerflot worm's been part of Icelandic folklore since the 14th century. Said to be this massive lake monster, sometimes said to be longer than a football field. In August of 2023, photographer Shay Kelly dropped a set of images she'd been holding on to since 2018. She and her husband had been having lunch at an inn on Loch Ness when she caught something gliding through the water about 200 meters offshore. Shay said it was moving, quote, right to left at a steady speed, spinning and rolling at times. "We never saw a head or neck. After a couple minutes, it just disappeared and we never saw it again," end quote. At first, she thought it might be otters or a seal, but it never came up for air again and it just kept moving like a serpent, she continued. Steve Feltham, a well-known Nessie hunter who's been at this for over 30 years, called the photos the most exciting surface shots in decades, saying, "They are the most compelling surface images of the phenomenon. They still defy explanation. The images show two rounded humps rolling through the water. There's no obvious head or neck, but it definitely doesn't look like otters or divers. Whatever this really was, a Nessie or a massive eel, these are definitely some of the clearest and most intriguing Nessie photos possibly ever." In mid-2023, farmers near Oruro, Bolivia started spotting something weird roaming their fields. One drone video caught this hunched, dark figure standing upright in a crop field. Carlos Flores, who first spotted it in the footage, said, "It is strange. It looks like a dog, but it has a hump further back. Looking at the images, it has the same position as the chupacabra." Well, this creepy drone footage seemed to trigger fears that the legendary goat sucker had struck again, and a lot of that had to do with the timing of this. Farmers in the area had been finding dead livestock drained of their BLOOD. Some of them took to installing floodlights around their ranches, hoping to either scare it off or actually catch it on camera. The footage itself is not super clear. I mean, it's taken from very far away, but you can definitely see this dark hunched shape in the center of the frame, motionless at first, then shifting, almost like it realizes the drone is watching and scurries away. Imagine strolling on a Long Island beach and finding this thing washed up on the shore. Well, in July of 2008, a woman named Jenna Hewitt and two friends were walking along Ditch Plains Beach in Montauk when they came across this bloated, hairless corpse with a weird beak-like snout and long limbs. Jenna's friend Christina snapped the infamous photo, and the image blew up online within days. People couldn't figure out what it was. Some thought it was some kind of deformed raccoon, maybe a sea turtle without its shell, and of course, some people immediately jumped to secret government experiments. That's because this was pretty close to the old Plum Island Animal Disease Center. Some people were saying that maybe it escaped from some shady lab over there. No one ever officially confirmed what it was. To this day, people still argue about whether it was just a decomposed raccoon or maybe something else. Apparently, this next piece of footage was taken somewhere in Bolivia on April 20th of 2020. The video starts off pretty normal. You see a nice view of the trees, you hear birds in the background, but then you notice it. There's something hovering in the sky. It's not a bird, there's no flapping of wings, plus it's way too big to be a bird anyway. It's certainly not a plane. The object seems to just drift downward, slowly making its way toward the trees before finally vanishing into the tree line. Now, what could it be? A drone? Well, the object is far away, but still pretty easy to make out. This would have to be a pretty sizable drone, right? Well, I don't know. What do you think? Let us know down in the comments. So here's one that made the rounds online a while back, and yeah, it's creepy, but also kind of funny in the way that only real reactions can be. A group of nurses were working a night shift when they decided to go check out a floor in their hospital that's rumored to be haunted. Staff and patients had been talking for a while about weird stuff happening up there. They'd hear unexplained noises, they'd see shadows, usual spooky hospital stuff. It was a slow night, so they figured, why don't we just go check it out? Well, they walked into one of the rooms, and then this happens.
Oh, the curtain moved. Yeah, it did, it moved.
So suddenly one of the curtains moves. It slides. There's no one close to it, but it sort of moves as if someone has brushed past it or even like opened it. Now, on its own, maybe that's not so crazy, right? But then this happens.
Yeah, it did, it moved, yes, it did, it did. How did you not see that? Oh, okay.
As soon as that thing falls down, they split back down the hallway and are off of that floor. And understandably. This next clip comes from Sal Guerrero Juega on TikTok. He and some friends are sitting around the table finishing up dinner. He pans the camera across the table before coming to a dead stop by an open doorway where he sees this. Someone, or maybe something, is just sitting in the darkness staring into the doorway. It's impossibly pale, its facial features are blurry, and it has this odd shape to it. I mean, just what is that thing? Is it a statue? It'd be a pretty freaky statue. I'm not sure who would ever want to have that thing sitting on their lawn, but to each their own. I mean, to me, it kind of looks like the pale lady from Scary Stories to Tell in the Dark. So again, that's gonna be a no thanks. This next clip was shared to TikTok by Robert What 47. He was walking through the woods one night when suddenly his dog Ollie started getting agitated, barking at something in the tree line. Robert takes a moment to look around and find out what's spooking his dog, and that's when this happens. So not only was the screeching sound freaky, but notice what looked like glowing orange eyes peeking out from the brush. Takes him a couple moments to collect himself after hearing and seeing that, but then he wisely decides to get the hell out of there. In June of 2009, a man calling himself Peter Bergman checked into the Sligo City Hotel in Ireland. He said he was from Austria and gave a Vienna address, but later, police found that that address didn't exist. Over the next few days, security footage showed him walking around the city carrying a purple plastic bag that he kept disposing of in different places, always out of the camera's view. It looked like he was deliberately trying not to be seen getting rid of whatever was inside the bag. Then on June 16th, his body was found on Ross's Point Beach. He was wearing swimming trunks with underwear over them and a t-shirt tucked in. There was no ID, no wallet, no money. Every label on his clothing had been cut off. Police couldn't find anything to identify him. The autopsy showed he had advanced prostate cancer, bone tumors, and heart disease, but oddly, no medication of any kind was in his system. No one ever came forward to identify him, and no match was ever found for his fingerprints or dental records and DNA. After 5 months, the case was closed, and he was buried in an unmarked grave. To this day, this man is a complete mystery. And finally, we have a wild Bigfoot video from Russia. A group of people were filming near their property after spotting something weird darting through the woods. And when you see what they caught on camera, it's definitely not what you'd expect. Well, now you expect it because I said it's Bigfoot, but they were not expecting to see what they saw. As you can see, something big comes sprinting through the trees, but here's the part that really stands out. The thing isn't stumbling around or moving, like some guy in a costume. It's fast, it's agile, it's leaping across uneven ground like it's done it a million times before. Whether you believe in this piece of footage is a genuine Bigfoot sighting or not, you gotta admit, that's a level of effort you don't often see in stuff like this. That's why this clip keeps popping up in Sasquatch forums and YouTube breakdowns. I'm not saying I'm a full-on believer, but I can't lie, I've watched this one more than a few times. In the mid-2010s, parents started noticing that children's videos on YouTube were being flooded with bizarre, creepy animations. Characters like Elsa from Frozen or Spider-Man appeared in these disturbing situations involving violence, strange medical themes. There was often drinking involved. I remember this at the time. It really creeped me out. This was kind of like the days before AI, but it was kind of like the early version of that idea, like AI making its own videos. The phenomenon became known as Elsagate though. Despite YouTube cracking down on these videos, no one has ever fully figured out who was mass producing them or why. Were they just clickbait farms? Was there a more sinister motive? Or again, was it some kind of early AI? To this day, Elsagate remains one of the strangest and most unsettling mysteries of the modern internet. In the mid-90s, fans of Pink Floyd stumbled into what looked like a hidden puzzle buried inside the band's 1994 album The Division Bell. It began when a user calling themselves Publius started posting cryptic messages on Usenet, using an anonymous remailer service. Publius claimed that if you studied the album's lyrics, artwork, and music carefully, you could uncover a riddle, and solving it would lead to a mysterious prize. The enigma deepened during a Pink Floyd concert in New Jersey when the stage lights actually spelled out Enigma Publius in flashing letters. This seemed to confirm that the band was in on this. Fans just dove in, analyzing every detail of the album, trading theories and trying to connect the dots, but then it all fizzled out. The post stopped in 1996 when the remailer service shut down. Years later, band members gave conflicting statements about it. Guitarist Dave Gilmour dismissed it as a silly record company thing. To this day, no one knows if there really was a solution or fans were chasing a prize that never actually existed. In 2015, a YouTube channel called Unfavorable Semicircle appeared out of nowhere and immediately unsettled anyone who found it. The channel uploaded thousands of bizarre videos, most with titles that were either Sagittarius zodiac symbol or random numbers. The videos themselves were stranger, distorted audio, pixelated visuals, sometimes just a dot on a brown screen. Some lasted only seconds. One silent video dragged on for 11 hours. A small Reddit community formed to investigate this, convinced it was some kind of number station, an alternate reality game, or a recruitment tool. But the videos had weird effects. Frame-by-frame analysis seemed to reveal eerie hidden images, sometimes connected to space, astrology, or even the Voyager Golden Record. Some viewers claimed the videos even caused playback glitches on devices, adding to the mystery. Then in 2016, the BBC reported on the channel. Hours later, YouTube shut it down completely. The creator stayed silent until 2022, and they finally broke cover on Twitter and claimed it was simply an outsider art project. But many still don't buy that explanation, especially since so much about the videos and their strange hidden imagery is unexplained. This one doesn't come from YouTube or Reddit's front page, but the early Wild West days of the internet. A user named Swanee McSwan shared their personal white whale story, a mystery they've never been able to solve. Back in the dial-up era, long before Google, they stumbled on a forum thread where someone posted about finding a weird piece of metal in an old ghost town near Hartselle, Colorado. The pictures showed a crumbling road sign and the shells of abandoned buildings. Curious users asked for more proof, and the original poster kept sharing photos, more ruins, more details. Here's where it gets creepy. Other people from the forum actually went to the exact location. They uploaded their own pictures from the same angle, but there was nothing there. No buildings, no ruins. It was just empty land. One user actually brought high-end metal detectors and still didn't find anything. The OP kept insisting it was real though, even citing obscure historical records about a lost town, but those records vanished as well. As the forum eventually shut down, the mystery disappeared with it. Was it just a hoax, or was there something stranger going on here? A ghost town that literally slipped out of reality. This video is uploaded to the YouTube channel World Paranormal. Paranormal investigator Bobby Bars experienced some weird stuff with this doll. Throughout the video, there are some pretty eerie EVPs, which stands for electronic voice phenomena. Listen closely to this. No. Did you hear that whisper? What about the odd whimpering noise in this next clip?
Across the screen. Holy.
But what about the doll? Well, this is the creepiest part.
What the
What do you all think of this one? Leave your thoughts down in the comments. This next clip was shared to YouTube by Jonathan's Other Adventures, who seems to have captured the infamous Robert the Doll move on his own. He said he captured the footage in 2008 while on a trip to Key West, Florida, where Robert the Doll is housed at the East Martello Museum. Watch Robert's foot after he pans the camera down. Now, that happens very fast and it's pretty subtle, so here it is slowed down a couple times. The foot does seem to subtly shift on its own. Now, for those of you not in the know, Robert the Doll is probably the most famous haunted doll aside from Annabelle. It once belonged to a boy named Robert Eugene Otto, who claimed the doll could move and talk. Neighbors said they saw it watching from windows, and Gene's parents often heard him screaming while Robert's voice responded. The doll was eventually locked away, but strange things kept happening. Furniture would move, giggles in the dark would be heard. Eventually, the doll ended up at the museum in Florida, where it sits behind glass, and visitors claim that bad luck will follow if they take his photo or video without asking permission. Some have even mailed apology letters to the museum begging the doll to forgive them. In 2017, a couple appeared on the British talk show This Morning with a doll they believed was possessed. And while they were being interviewed, the chair the doll was sitting on started rocking by itself multiple times. The couple explained they'd found the doll at an antique store, along with a few others, and bought them because they were cheap and might be worth reselling. But the moment they brought the dolls home, strange things started to happen. They kept the one that ended up on the show in their bedroom dresser. And one morning, the husband got in the shower and suddenly felt a burning sensation on his leg, out of nowhere. After that, they put the doll in a plastic bin out in the shed, and a few days later, the wife opened the bin and noticed the doll's necklace had somehow come off, even though it had been tightly secured. And that same night, she woke up around 2 a.m. and heard a whooshing sound pass by the bed, almost like clothes were rustling, but nothing was there. They ended up selling the thing on eBay soon after this episode aired. The Pascalita is a mannequin in a bridal shop window in Mexico. There is something very creepy and off-putting about this thing, mainly how lifelike it is. In fact, that's entirely it. And to the point where a lot of people think she might actually be a corpse. See, she first showed up in 1930, and right away people started noticing she looked exactly like the shop owner's daughter, who had just died from a black widow spider bite on her wedding day. People started whispering that it wasn't just a mannequin, that it was her body preserved and dressed in a wedding gown. Some would even say they'd see the thing move on its own. And the rumors aren't surprising. I mean, her skin looks almost too real. Her hands, oh yikes, the hands. Look at them, the tiny wrinkles, the fingernails. Why does a mannequin need to have hands with this much meticulous, lifelike detail? Some store visitors have said she moves slightly, and this just sends a shiver down my spine, but a few claim they've seen her dance in the window at night. So this is security footage of a car plowing into a police station. Luckily, it wasn't a robot from the future looking to terminate anyone in the building though, just a dude in a blouse with no pants ranting and raving that he was possessed by the devil, throwing rubber snakes all around the place. Guess what state this happened in? It's Florida. So in June of 2024, a 40-year-old man named Joseph Leedy made headlines in Martin County, Florida when he drove his Toyota sedan straight into the lobby of the Martin County Jail. The cops found Leedy wearing only a woman's blouse with no pants. He'd poured motor oil on the floor and threatened to set the place on fire. Leedy also threw rubber snakes onto the floor and made disturbing statements, including that the, quote, devil told me to kill everyone. Deputies, of course, tried to subdue Leedy as he resisted arrest. Even after being tased and given multiple doses of medicine to try and calm him down, he still wasn't cooperating. Leedy was eventually restrained, though, and taken to a hospital where he just kept yelling and screaming. Fortunately, no one was injured during the incident as the lobby was empty at the time. This next eerie clip comes out of Mexico. A teacher was captured on a security camera one night marking some papers when he he started to act strangely. See, according to him, the mother of a student came to the classroom door and they had started having a conversation, but everyone was confused because the only person on camera was him. The teacher said that this parent came to the door and asked him for a student, who of course wasn't there. The school day had ended. He then said he watched as the mom walked to an adjacent room, at which point he got up to speak to her more, but when he got to that room, he found it was completely empty, and there was no sign of the woman anywhere in the hallway either. Suddenly, it dawned on him that something was just off about this whole situation, at which point he decided to grab his stuff and get the hell out of there. Now, this may be one of the most famous instances of a possible possession captured on security footage. The woman in the clip is named Debbie Berman. She was on a ghost hunt, part of a team investigating one of the most haunted houses in Britain, a place called The Cage in St. Osyth, Essex. It used to be a prison for women accused of witchcraft back in the Elizabethan era. 8 of these supposed witches are said to have died there. Well, the ghost hunting crew decided that they were going to stay overnight, and at around 3 a.m., while they were in the master bedroom, said to be the most active room in the house, something strange happened. Debbie started acting weird. Well, more like her face started acting weird, morphing into this twisted, ghoulish grin, her eyes turning pitch black, and it was all caught on one of the security cameras they'd placed in the room. Lead investigator Brad Mack was pretty shaken up, saying she looked totally unrecognizable. And things got even freakier when Debbie said that her back was burning. She lifted her jacket, and there were 4 deep scratches down her back. Nobody was near her, nobody touched her, at least no one the team was able to see. There's this wild piece of footage out of Brazil that started making the rounds back in 2017. It was recorded at Miguel Couto Municipal Hospital in Rio de Janeiro, and honestly, it's one of the creepiest things ever caught on camera inside a hospital. So this guy shows up with a bullet wound to the face, and instead of lying down and waiting for help like a normal injured person, he starts wandering the halls. But it's not just stumbling around, he's walking like he's being taken over by something. His back is all rounded back, his arms and legs are jerking in these weird, unnatural ways, and he's screaming, but it doesn't sound exactly like screams of pain. Instead, it almost sounds like he's exhilarated, being controlled by someone or something else. Security guards managed to capture some of the altercation on camera. There was no official word from the hospital about what actually happened. They never released a diagnosis, never explained it medically. Any level-headed person would, of course, assume he was on something, but without context, you'd probably think this was behind-the-scenes footage of a zombie movie or something. Back in 2014, ABC7 covered a story about a strange creature captured by a couple in South Texas. Jackie Stocks told the news crew that her husband spotted a weird creature in the yard eating corn. The husband said he'd hunted raccoons and said he'd never heard one growl like this before.
Harmer says one of the big signs it's not a raccoon is its growl.
Now, they also interviewed an apparent wildlife expert who looked at footage of the strange animal and said it was probably a canine with mange. Thing is, canines do not use their hands the way this thing does. I mean, have you ever seen your dog eat like this? I didn't think so. Wildlife expert, maybe go get a new career? I don't know. This footage was shown on One India News a few years ago. In Jharkhand, a group of bikers were riding along late at night when they saw this person walking along the side of the road. The video is pretty grainy, but you can still make out the figure. It looks pale, extremely thin, and moves in this weird, unnatural way. It doesn't seem to move its arms. It's like that character in Seinfeld that doesn't move when they walk. When it turns its head, it also seems to have these glowing yellowish eyes. So people online started commenting that this thing looked a lot like an alien. Of course, no one knows for sure what the bikers caught on camera, but whatever it is, I would be very uncomfortable seeing it anywhere at any time, let alone a rural road in the middle of the night. Back in 2019, 9 News Australia ran a story about a pub called the Tyler's Kiln. The pub is owned by a man named Alistair Collins, who's pretty convinced that the place is haunted. Collins had a whole collection of late-night security footage showing some really odd stuff happening after hours. Chairs are seen sliding out from tables all by themselves. Umbrellas suddenly pop open with no one around, and doors slam shut even though the place is completely empty. One of the news anchors even tried to recreate the chair moving like it did in the footage, but he couldn't really pull it off. The ground is just too uneven to smoothly drag the chair like that, and setting up a string or some trick would have been pretty tough without showing up on camera. They also tested how the umbrella could have opened on its own and figured it would have been nearly impossible to pull off without someone being caught in the frame. The creepiest story probably came from an electrician who was working there during some renovations. He heard small doors swinging near the kitchen and loud footsteps heading upstairs. He thought the only other person in the building had, of course, gone upstairs, but when he called out, said person came walking out of the kitchen right in front of him. So what was going on up there? Well, they went upstairs to check, and no one was there. The whole top floor was completely empty. I love stories like that. This next piece of footage still gets shared around online from time to time. Back in 2016, something strange happened during a Sky Sports broadcast. After a game, pundits Jamie Carragher and Phil Neville were chatting about the match, as sports commentators do, but eagle-eyed viewers at home noticed something weird in the background. There was a shadowy figure moving across the empty field. At first, it just looked like a regular groundskeeper doing cleanup, pushing equipment across the grass, but then the dude just vanishes. Viewers immediately jumped online to talk about what they saw. One person wrote, "Did anyone else notice the ghost groundsman?" Another said, "Monday Night Football, keep an eye out, there's an effing ghost groundsman in the Northeast." And someone else joked, "Ghost groundsman at the Stadium of Light, the ground needs an exorcism." No one from Sky Sports or the stadium ever confirmed what it actually was, and the pundits never addressed it.
But I'm happy there's a dog in it. Here you've got Gary, Randy, Sean, Denny, Jen, and Zach. They decide to film their lakeside escapades by strapping a camera to their dog, Tank, a Yorkshire Terrier on a mission to capture all the fun. But things take a sinister turn when gray aliens decide to crash the party, lurking beneath the water as the group swims. As night falls, chaos ensues. The aliens plunge the house into darkness, creating chaos and snatching up Zach in a blink. They terrorize the rest of the gang, dragging them off in their sleeping bags with plans to drown them in the lake. Only Gary, Randy, and Jen, and Tank the doggy, manage to bolt, but their escape plan gets tanked when Tank barks and leads the aliens right to them. Come on, buddy. It's a full-blown horror show with fake police lights turning out to be a trap, and the abductions left and right. Gary gets lifted into the air by alien tractor beams, while Tank, injured and alone, watches as the camera's battery fades. This one is a real chiller. At number 7 is the Borderlands. In this chilling tale, 3 Vatican investigators venture into a 13th century church with sinister secrets hidden deep within the walls. When they roll up, the priest tries to win them over with footage of objects moving on the altar, but still, the film crew remains skeptical. That night, local hooligans burn a sheep outside of their digs, and it's getting weird. To make a long story short, they end up discovering an eerie door with pagan symbols leading to a dark, hellish descent, echoing with cries and screams, and things just go from bad to worse. As they journey into the depths, they uncover a horrifying history of sacrifice and a minister gone pagan. And then, it takes a surreal, stomach-turning twist as they're all forced to crawl through a tiny, smelly passageway, which is eventually revealed to be part of a monstrous digestive system secreting enzymes to devour the crew and leaving no trace of them behind, except for their camera. At number 6, Butterfly Kisses. Our story here starts with Gavin York, a struggling wedding videographer and film school dropout. He stumbles upon this collection, and well, curiosity gets the best of him. These tapes belong to a documentary created by 2 film students, Sophia and Feldman, back in 2004. They were on a mission to prove the existence of a chilling urban legend, Peeping Tom. Now, this Peeping Tom character, you can supposedly summon him by staring down Ilchester Tunnel at midnight for a whole hour without blinking. Sounds terrifying, right? But here's the kicker. When they review the footage, they realize that Peeping Tom isn't just a legend. He's actually inside of the camera, stalking them. Sophia's left alone in a nightmarish struggle. Fast forward to Galvin, who's set on proving Peeping Tom's existence. He brings in a documentary crew, but things take a dark turn. Questions arise about the authenticity of the tapes and Sophia Feldman's existence and the possibility of it all being just a hoax. Galvin's obsession wreaks havoc on his personal life, and he finds himself alone, abandoned by his family. And despite his efforts to gain credibility, Galvin is mocked and humiliated. Final blow comes when when he vanishes inside Ilchester Tunnel, and 9 days later, his mangled body is discovered in a hotel room.
These creepy images were shared to X by Scared for Life 2, who wrote that their friend works at Central Library in Manchester. In October of 2019, the uploader popped in for a visit, and the friends shared these images. They came from the security camera in the basement corridors. Now, I don't know about this place having any history of paranormal activity, but it was built in 1934, not super old, especially by England standards, but it is enough time to have racked up some history. And if anyone had died in the building, or was just someone who had a fondness for the place, maybe they never left. Remember the Myrtles Plantation? I've talked about it on the channel a number of times. It's said to be one of the most haunted places in the United States. Well, now we have some footage. This security camera happened to pick up something incredibly startling during a tour, right in the middle of the day. So the group is standing in the foyer. They're slowly making their way deeper into the home, very slowly, as this is not a group of spring chickens. And then suddenly, this happens. So a series of super loud bangs on the wall are heard, the mirror shakes violently, and then a sculpture falls down. Now, could this have been staged? There's always the possibility, but I hope that's not the case, because if it was, that was pretty messed up. You really shouldn't be playing pranks on old folks like this, especially with loud bangs. So this eerie piece of footage comes from a government office in Mexico City. According to the staff, especially the security guards, strange things were happening there all the time. They said they were constantly getting spooked, but the most disturbing part was that several of them claimed to see some kind of monk-like figure that would appear and harass them. People would also report hearing cries and screams in the early hours of the morning. Then one night, a security camera finally captured this, which looked exactly like the creepy figure that had been terrifying them night after night. Imagine you're alone at home in the middle of the night, cleaning up around the house, when suddenly something cuts through the silence. It's a whisper, and not only is it a whisper, but it's your name. This is what happened to Reddit user IggyTalls_15, who said, "I heard someone very distinctly whisper Mike from behind me. I thought one of my kids had walked downstairs, but when I saw there was no one, I bolted. It was just me and the dogs/cat around 12 a.m. This is also an old home from the 1850s, and a crew member who died in the Halifax explosion lived here in the early 1900s. Take a listen to this and a watch. Security footage from Wellington Indoor Market in Telford, England caught something that left workers a bit rattled the next day. When traders showed up one morning, they found a bunch of boxes scattered across the floor and stairs. At first they thought someone had broken in, of course, but when they checked the CCTV, what they saw was something else entirely. A dark, shadowy figure walking up the stairs and then knocking over the boxes. Now, it's not very easy to make out the figure walking up the stairs, but if you look closely enough, you can see some sort of shadowy shape appear. The boxes falling are clearly visible though. Market manager Kay Bokai said, "We came into the market in the morning and the boxes were all over the place. On the floor, over the stairs. We thought we'd had an intruder, so we obviously went straight to the CCTV. We couldn't believe what we saw. All the hairs stood up on the back of my neck. There was nobody there when the boxes fell off. We watched it again and we could see the shadow walking up the stairs, then chucking the boxes over." End quote. Now, this market isn't new to strange activity. It's been around since 1244. According to Kay, sometimes there are strange things that go on when people are alone. Some people say they have seen a shadow go past them. She also mentioned an incident where, quote, "2 people were alone in the market. They were talking when they heard coughing coming from the other side of the building. But when they looked around, it was totally empty." Other weird moments include doors slamming and hand dryers turning on by themselves. Who is this staring at the security camera after hours? So a security guard monitoring a CCTV system got an alert that someone was on the property after hours, well past closing time when no one should have been there, other than him, of course. When he checked the footage, what the camera caught was unsettling to say the least. There's this small, ghostly figure with glowing eyes standing in the distance. Some have said it looks like a little boy, standing there, staring right at the camera. The clip has since been linked to the legend of the Pocong, a ghost from Indonesian and Malaysian folklore. According to the belief, a Pocong is the spirit of a dead person who's still wrapped in their burial shroud. In some versions of the legend, the soul remains trapped if the ties around the shroud aren't removed after 40 days. And the spirit is forced to wander, often appearing as this pale figure with bound limbs and a haunting stare.
At number 5 is Hell House LLC. If you're a fan of horror and found footage, you might have heard of the infamous Abaddon Hotel in Rockland County, New York. This place has a sinister history that's the stuff of nightmares. In a chilling documentary, the crew investigates a mysterious accident that took the lives of 15 people, including the Hell House company staff and their first group of attendees. The crew's pursuit of answers leads them to Sarah Havel, the sole survivor from the Hell House team. Her footage unveils a series of unexpected events hinting at the hotel's connection to a satanic cult, but things actually are about to get a lot more twisted from here. After watching the eerie tapes, Michael, a crew member, decides to contact Diane, the producer. However, he stumbles upon something too horrifying to describe. When Diane and her cameraman break into the Abaddon Hotel, they discovered a room level 2C where they believed Sarah was supposed to be staying, but there's no escaping the malevolent forces from within. Sarah, the person they've been speaking to this entire time, is no more than a mere ghostly apparition, and there was never any survivors to begin with. As they realize the truth, the camera captures their terrifying demise, leaving you to question the boundaries of reality and the supernatural. Watch this at your peril, but be prepared for sleepless nights. At number 4 is the horror in the high desert. This is the unsolved mystery of Gary Hinge, the amateur hiker who ventured into the heart of the Great Basin Desert, only to disappear without a trace. It all began in July of 2017 when Gary set out from the town of Ruth, Nevada on a solo expedition to a cabin he'd previously encountered. Days turned into weeks, and as his housemate Simon Rogers grew increasingly concerned, the police were called in. A massive search operation ensued, but it turned up nothing, as Gary's truck was discovered 55 miles from Ruth. But here's where it gets bizarre. The truck was teeming with fingerprints that didn't belong to Gary, and barefoot fingerprints led away from it, not matching his own. And then the investigation took a digital turn. Gary was a YouTube vlogger known as Scorpion Sam with a sizable following. His last video recounted a strange encounter near the cabin, but it was met with skepticism. Weeks later, hikers stumbled upon Gary's backpack containing a gruesome find: his severed hand clutching a video camera. Analysts revealed that the hand had been severed while he was alive no more than 5 weeks earlier. The camera unveiled the truth. At number 3 is Lake Mungo. This documentary starts about a family grappling with the loss of their teenage daughter who drowned. There's no gore, no creepy creatures, just a sense of unease. The slow burn of this film works like a psychological vice, tightening with each revelation. If you watch in a dark room right before bed, the atmosphere becomes oppressive. You're drawn into the web of grief and the unknown, and then it happens. An image so unexpected and terrifying that it's seared into your memory. Lake Mungo proves that the most chilling horrors aren't supernatural entities, but the depths of human emotion. And don't be surprised if you lose some sleep. At number 2 is The Last Broadcast. Before The Blair Witch, we had The Last Broadcast, and this obscure mockumentary takes us on a spine-tingling journey into the dark depths of the New Jersey Pine Barrens, where a group of filmmakers met a gruesome fate while documenting the Jersey Devil. The film's vintage aesthetic doesn't just add an old school charm, it enhances the realism, immersing you in the horrifying tale. As it unfolds, reality and fiction seamlessly merge, leaving you questioning what's real, and the result is a vital indie film, one that leaves a haunting mark. When the chilling reveal comes, it's a punch to the gut. The Last Broadcast isn't just for the faint of heart, but if you dare to watch, prepare for a cursed experience like no other. Man-Eater Tragedy. Released in 1980, it's a notorious film credited with pioneering the found footage horror genre. The exploitation classic follows an American documentary crew whose cruelty towards a native Amazon tribe results in the gruesome end. It's infamous for its disturbing, realistic, unaliving scenes and its relentless brutality. The film's shocking portrayal of violence and the eerie ethics of filmmaking has sparked debates and controversies for decades. While it's considered a transgressive masterpiece, it's not for the faint of heart, and watching it may leave you with images you cannot erase. I am serious, you guys.
One of the wildest live stream stunts during Hurricane Milton There's a sentence that makes the modern world sound completely dystopian, but one of the wildest live streams during this hurricane came from a kick streamer named Mike Smalls Jr. He decided to take part in a so-called Hurricane Challenge, where another streamer promised $70,000 to anyone who could survive streaming through the storm. Smalls went live in Tampa with nothing but an umbrella and an air mattress, telling his chat that if he hit 100,000 views, he'd actually jump into a flooding river. Well, he hit his goal and made the jump, and things got serious. The wind started picking up, and I don't know how to swim, Small said. His mattress started drifting away. He had to grab onto a tree to avoid being swept off as well. Tampa police made a statement saying, intentionally placing oneself in harm's way could divert critical resources and delay vital rescue operations for others. Now, Smalls did tell viewers at one point though, quote, "Don't save me. I don't want to put your life at risk." He got a good amount of backlash for this situation, but this is also the internet and it's live streaming culture, so any publicity is good publicity. And he said he'd do something similar again if the price was right. In the world of just chatting live streams, streamers often take their audiences along with them through their daily lives. And that means that sometimes creepy situations get caught on camera. Case in point, watch this woman in black with the hat. She was being followed by some creep when she noticed a group of people hanging out on the street and quickly inserted herself into their conversation, pretending to be their friend. Luckily, the group caught on pretty quick and they went along with it. Watch the dude in gray with the ball cap though. He's the dude that was following the girl. At first you think he decides to walk off as soon as the woman is surrounded by people, but he creeps back, lurking right behind her for a bit before finally deciding to leave. Even then though, he turns to stare at her a bit more off camera. Now, luckily things did not escalate and the dude finally left, but had this woman not found people to help her, who knows what would have happened here. This next story happened during the height of the Pokemon Go craze. Back in 2016, a man ended up live streaming his own mugging while hunting Pokemon in Central Park. Reki Yaneza was out around 12:20 in the morning, searching for a Snorlax, like you do, when some dude creeps up behind him and just socks him in the head. Ricky had gone all out for his Pokemon Go setup. He used a custom rig that held 3 phones at once, one for the game, one to chat, and one to live stream. He was fully absorbed in this and was just taken totally off guard. The video shows the robber taking his phones while viewers watched, commenting live as it happened. Ricky ended up with a bruise on his cheek, a scab on his elbow, and of course he lost the 3 phones. But he said, "I'm alive, and that's all that really matters." Back in January of 2024, a Japanese Twitch streamer got a live audience for one of the scariest moments of her life. Shiori_Japan1, who'd only joined Twitch a couple months before, was streaming from her home in Niigata when a 7.6 magnitude earthquake suddenly hit. She felt some tremors, then an alert on her phone went off. A big earthquake was about to hit. The live stream continued as everything started shaking for more than 40 seconds after she left. Luckily, Shiori was fine, but others weren't so lucky. At least 48 people died. Rescuers were trying to free people trapped in collapsed buildings. This next one is incredibly disturbing. This is the case of Russian streamer Stanislav Reshetnikov, who went by Replay. Back in 2021, he was sentenced to 6 years in a penal colony after doing the unthinkable on a live stream. On camera, he was seen verbally and physically tormenting his girlfriend Valentina, while viewers just sat back and watched. Even worse, actually, they sent him money to keep doing this, and things just escalated until he forced her outside in freezing weather with no clothes on. Hours later, he brought her back in, and that's when he started to panic. He told his viewers she didn't have a pulse. At first, people thought she died from hypothermia, but investigators later found she'd died from blunt force trauma to the head. I mean, I don't even know how you begin to wrap your head around something like this. Just makes you kind of lose your faith in humanity. And I'm sure most of you have heard about this recent case. Jean Portmanov, whose real name was Raphael Gravin, he was 46 years old, and he'd built a following of over 500,000 people across social media. His streams on the platform Kick were known for pushing limits, with him often being the target of extreme challenges set up by his streamer friends. Well, his life ended in one of the worst ways imaginable. 10 straight days of brutal torment. Viewers watched as he was forced to stay awake, had objects thrown at him, food was shoved into his mouth, and he got fired at with a paintball gun, and there was also worse stuff. All of this was at the hands of his so-called friends, all for views. By the end of this barrage, Jean died on stream, and it was viewers who reported it to the police after realizing something was terribly wrong. French authorities later confirmed that 2 streamers were taken into custody. This case has brought a lot of attention to the growing trend of just horrific things being carried out over live streams. More specifically, what's called trash streaming, which is basically exactly what it sounds like. Streams that center around humiliation, dangerous stunts, just pure shock value. This is Zlata, one of the most flexible women in the world. Zlata, whose real name is Julia Guntel, is a world-famous contortionist known for doing things with her body that most of us can't even imagine, let alone attempt. I can barely get through a night of sleep without my shoulders and my back hurting. I can't even imagine doing stuff like this. She was born in Kazakhstan and raised in Germany. She started out as a gymnast before realizing she had an extreme level of flexibility that went way beyond the norm. Poses where she basically turns herself into a human knot. She's been performing since she was a teenager and eventually earned the nickname Zlata, which means golden in Russian, fitting considering she's held multiple world records. Her spine is so flexible that she's able to rotate her upper body 180 degrees. A lot of her poses just look like they've been photoshopped. Not the case though. Zlata's appeared on TV shows and live circus acts and in lots of photo shoots that really show off her insane flexibility. Isao Machi is this martial artist from Japan who's just on a whole different level with the katana. He practices Iaido, an old school samurai art where you draw and strike in one smooth motion, but what sets him apart is how freakishly fast and precise he is. One of the wildest things he can do is slice a BB pellet in half in mid-air. So here, watch this.
I heard it.
So that's a tiny plastic ball fired from an airsoft at crazy speed, and this guy draws his katana from the sheath and cuts it clean through as it's flying at him. That's not just impressive, that is full-on real-life anime stuff. And just to drive it home, most people wouldn't even be able to see a BB pellet flying through the air, let alone react fast enough to hit it with a blade. Incredible. And now for a different kind of movement, straight up flying. This is a rather famous piece of footage that's been circulating online for years. Apparently this was filmed in a forest somewhere in Russia. The camera person's dog seems disturbed by something and runs off ahead. When the cameraman steps into a clearing, we see something completely unexpected. A woman is standing on the ground looking up at a young girl who's just hovering in the air. Soon they realize they're being filmed and they rush off back into the forest. This video falls firmly into that mysterious internet video category. There's not a lot of information about it. It was posted back in 2012 and went viral. There's not a whole lot of information on it. This was filmed at the pedestrian bridge in Kiev, not exactly where you'd expect to see Spider-Man hanging out, but apparently he was. Looks a lot like Spider-Man to me anyway. I don't know how you guys feel. And there's anything we know about Spider-Man though, it's that he does not move like a normal person. So why is this person crawling along this bridge? It seems pretty risky. The water down there doesn't look deep at all, so if they slipped, it wasn't gonna end well. Unless they've got actual web-slinging powers, a fall from that height could do real damage. So who is this? Some adrenaline junkie? Someone who's just lost it completely? I have no idea. I'm just kind of hoping it really is Spider-Man. This is a weird one. A man completely frozen in place in the middle of the street. Again, no real info on this one. It just is what it is. Weird. And no, we have not paused the clip. This is the footage. What's nuts about this one isn't just that the guy is frozen in place. He's like mid-stride. He looks like an NPC glitching in a video game instead of someone just standing really still. I can't see any movement from this guy. No twitching, like no subtle movement of any kind. It's pretty impressive, honestly. Any thoughts on this one? Share your thoughts down below. And finally, we have this mysterious piece of footage. Look, hospitals are already the last place I want to be. Aside from like waking up buried alive in a coffin or in a burlap sack in the lake, Still, hospital's not where I want to be. So seeing this would just make things all the more uncomfortable for me. Probably not as uncomfortable as her, because her back looks like it's about to snap, but I'd be pretty freaked out. Back in 2018, something strange was caught on camera, but the footage stayed hidden for years. It was finally released to the public in January of 2024. The object was seen flying over a US military base in Iraq and was tracked using military infrared radar. It moved across the base and slowly lowered itself into a nearby body of water. About 17 minutes later, it popped back up and shot off at an unbelievable speed. The Pentagon officially marked it as a UAP, meaning they don't know what it was. One of the strangest things about the object was that it kept changing color. It would go from kind of see-through to solid black. And since the video was filmed using infrared, these color changes actually show that the object's temperature was shifting really fast. It was heating up and cooling down so quickly that the radar struggled to keep up with it. Dr. Matthew Zadegas, a physics professor at the University of Albany, said it was changing temperature faster than any known object. About 3 years ago, some really creepy security camera footage started making the rounds online. We see this weird, pale creature moving around in the backyard of an apartment complex in Moorhead, Kentucky. The video was caught by a CCTV camera in the area. It was first shared by Paranormality magazine on X. In the 33-second clip, you can see this tall, skinny, human-like figure crouching low near the back of the yard. It slowly creeps forward, looking around like it's checking to see if anyone's watching, then heads toward the homeowner's car. The footage blew up online. People from all over the world started guessing what the pale figure could be and where it came from. Some thought it looked like an alien, others said it looked more like a rake. No one's figured out exactly what it was, but what do you think? Just what in the hell is this thing? Now, I don't have a lot of info on this one. I believe the image first showed up on Reddit about a year back. User itchypalp_88 wrote that it was sent to them by their neighbor in Vacaville, California, who'd caught it on their Ring camera at a trailer park backing up to a creek. As for what it is, hairless cat, the chupacabra, an alien, those big black eyes definitely kind of make it look like one. As weird and freaky as this thing is, though, it is oddly cute in a kind of ugly way. You know what I mean. Now, this next one is clearly a drone, but doesn't make the story any less creepy. So about 5 years ago in British Columbia, Canada, a couple had a pretty creepy run-in with what they thought was just a drone, except this one got way too close for comfort. Around 11:30 p.m. on Friday, September 25th, a man named Ryan Frank noticed something weird flying right outside his window. It was a drone actively watching the house. It was next to the car looking in the window and then hovered right in front of me, Ryan said. It came so close to the window at one point it cut the strings on 2 hanging hummingbird feeders. He said the drone hovered outside his house for just under 5 minutes. I threw a beer at it at some point, but I missed, he added. Eventually the drone flew off. The next morning Ryan checked his security footage and showed it to his girlfriend, Shayla Skates. Perfect Canadian name there. Anyway, she'd been asleep when it all happened, and she was pretty freaked out. I feel violated, she said. Who knows what this person was recording of me? How many times this drone has been recording my house, me, my child? Turns out this wasn't an isolated thing. When Shayla posted about it on Facebook, at least half a dozen people commented saying they'd seen similar drones snooping around homes in the area. In fact, just the year before, a woman named Dominique Embury had her own weird encounter. On December 18th of 2019, Dominic saw a small black drone hovering outside her window. Her security footage showed it carefully circling their cars, flying right up to their license plates, then sitting there watching her in the living room for almost 2 minutes before finally flying away. Ryan said the drone he saw was about 12 inches wide and 12 inches deep, with 4 propellers, battery pack, and a camera strapped to it. This footage was released by the AARO, the All-Domain Anomaly Resolution Office, a group inside the US Department of Defense that's specifically in charge of looking into UAPs. The clip was made public during a US Senate hearing and has been part of their official investigation records. It was captured by an MQ-9 Reaper drone, which is a high-tech surveillance drone usually used by the military for tracking and reconnaissance. Clearly, we can see a small, round object flying across the frame. The AARO has confirmed they still don't know what the thing is. They've officially labeled it as a genuine UAP. They also said it's not the first time they've caught orbs like this on camera. There have been other sightings of similar objects, but so far, no one's been able to explain what they are or where they come from.